Welcome to the Live to 110 podcast. My name is Wendy Myers. I'm a health and nutrition coach in Los Angeles, California, and we are broadcasting live from the City of Angels. Today, I'm interviewing Marc Ching about why it's best to feed your pet a primal diet. But before I get started, I do have to do a little disclaimer. Please keep in mind that this program is not intended to diagnose or treat any disease or a health condition because that would be illegal. Live to 110 Radio is solely informational in nature. Please consult your healthcare practitioner before engaging in any treatment I suggest on this show. Do you have a question for our guest today about pet food or pet health? Please call in at 917-889-2838. Don't be shy. Pick up that phone and call in. If you like the show and want to learn a little bit more about health and nutrition, I'm teaching a class at the Brentwood Library here in Los Angeles on Saturday, June 8th at 2 p.m. I'll be teaching a class on the Live to 110 diet that will cover basic nutrition principles. And best of all, it's totally free, so come on down and join me. Last week's show was probably my favorite show so far on the Live to 110 podcast. I interviewed Dr. Wilson, an expert in nutritional balancing science. We discussed how to rid yourself of fatigue and brain fog, while he revealed the underlying causes of these epidemic problems in our society and how to address them by healing the whole body with nutritional balancing science. You can get a preview of what he's all about on his brilliant website, drlwilson.com. Now, today I'll be talking to Marc Ching from PetStaurant.com. That's spelled PetStaurant.com. It's a little tricky. I've tripped up a few times searching for it, so I wanted to give you the spelling. And we're going to talk about why it's important to feed your pet a primal diet. There are more pets than people in the U.S., so I thought it important to get the message out about how to properly feed Rover and Kitty. The same exact health problems are happening in the human population that are also happening in the pet population. They're eating the wrong food for their genetic makeup, but when they have health problems as a result of this bad diet, you take them to the vet and get medication and bad nutrition advice, which can cause a further decline in their health. So many pets are suffering from degenerative diseases like arthritis and cancer simply because of their diet. So during this interview, you'll learn what you should be feeding your pet and why what you feed your pet will save you a ton on vet bills in the future. I thought today's show was important, even though, it's a little off the mark regarding human health, but it's my show, so I can do whatever I want. Haha. So, hello, Marc. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm glad to have you on the show. You are the owner of the PetStaurant in Sherman Oaks, California, and you can be found on thepetstaurant.com. And all I can say is that I'm so happy I found you through a friend's referral because your products and advice have drastically improved the health of my two little yappers, and I can't thank you enough. I'm sure all you listeners out there are familiar with the little barks that you hear here and there on the show. So, Marc, can you tell us exactly what is the PetStaurant and what inspired you to open it?
Well, the PetStaurant is we make food. So we make organic, species-appropriate meals for dogs and cats. And, we've been open for a while. And we opened because when in the beginning, when I started treating animals, I saw an overwhelmingly amount of sick animals, and it was based on diet. Many of them ate kibble or, those vet-type foods, and they had they had so much fungus, yeast problems, cancer, organ failure, that we started making our own food. So we try to base it on what they could eat in the wild. We do both raw and cooked meals, and it's all grain-free. So, that's basically why we started and how we started. And over time, through using our food and certain supplements, we've been able to cure things that many vets cannot. So it's pretty amazing.
So what is the best diet for a dog?
Well, the best diet for a dog, in my opinion, is a diet that consists of minimally processed foods, meaning, if you prepare your own, if you got your own meat and your own vegetables and you just made it yourself, that's minimally processed. There's a raw diet, which, is more close to what they would eat in the wild, consisting of raw foods. And some people who prepare also choose to cook their meats and add everything else raw. So either way, it's a more species-appropriate diet. And they do better on it. The evidence and just when you watch them, they thrive.
So why is it important to not feed a dog grains?
Well, grains are not good for animals because they cannot break them down. So they have less enzymes in us. So when they eat, let's say, rice, they have a hard time digesting it. And when it goes undigested, when you keep feeding something like this and every day there's so much material that is undigested, it'll actually push through the GI wall, and fungus can start to feed on it. And many dogs today have what's called allergies, and it's really the feeding of things that are inappropriate. And they develop a reaction to it, which is actually fungus in the GI tract growing, and it comes out of their feet, so they'll bite their feet, they'll lick their paws, they'll get really itchy. And so, it's a big problem, and it's a problem that we actually fix. So, unfortunately, there's so many dogs that have it, but if they didn't have it, we probably wouldn't even be in business. So,
no.
But we provide a cure. So we work very different from vets, and it's through food, just like how you would do. You look at the diet and you go from there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I kind of made a mistake with my dogs is I was feeding them organic leftover chicken, thinking that was healthy for them. But the chickens are, even if they're organic, they're still eating grains, which still affect the dog, right?
Some animals. So for some animals, they have what's called a pass-through effect, that grain-fed chickens can actually cause histamine reactions in dogs. So for us, we use, more free-range products, more wild products. We use pheasant. We have this. We use turkey, but they eat sunflower seeds, so they don't eat grains, like sprouted sunflower seeds. We use bison and like grass-fed organic Angus beef, and a lot of people don't think it makes a difference, but it does. It just, when they eat, when the animals they feed on eat more natural foods, it seems to hold up better when our dogs eat it. So.
Yeah, because those grass-fed animals have a healthier fat profile. They have more omega-3s, so it confers those health benefits to the dogs, too.
Correct. It does.
So what is the best diet for a cat?
Well, cats are a little different from dogs. So cats need less vegetable matter. They're pretty much carnivorous in nature. So they're known to be what's called obligate carnivores, where they can actually exist almost solely on meat. So, and a lot of people don't know, but there's really three types of cats. There are river cats, plains cats, and hybrids. So river cats tend to like fish more. And plains cats, they tend to like poultry. And nowadays, there's cats that just eat anything. So they're more of a hybrid. And for them, their diet consists of less vegetables and stuff like that. So in our cat foods, primarily it's like fish or, we do Cornish game hen. They seem to like that. We have pheasant, duck. And it's mostly meat. It has some organ meat sometimes. And they do well on it. And when there are less grains or no grains and less vegetables, they seem to have less problems.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it that you have all these exotic animals in the pet food. so tell me... go ahead.
No, then what we find that makes even a bigger difference is everything we use, like herbs and vegetables, it's organic. And it seems to actually matter. I tell people who cook at home that it's better to just cook even if it's not organic because it's better than dog food or cat food. But for us, we see a big difference from using organic produce and organic herbs to non-organic. So.
Mm-hmm. So when I was looking at the ingredients and the labels on your food, I was really amused to see that you're using organic herbs in the pet food. like you're using St. John's wort and ginkgo biloba, milk thistle, acai, and so many others. I just love it. So can you tell me why you use these herbs in your food and what purpose they serve?
So if you look at all other pet food labels beside ours, you will find what's called a vitamin pack. So somewhere in the ingredient profile, usually at the bottom, they'll say vitamin A, zinc, thiamine, et cetera, et cetera. By law, you have to have that because these foods are highly processed, so they have no vitamins. All the vitamins are cooked out or all the vitamins are extruded out. So without that, a dog would just have major, major problems. In our foods, because the vegetables are cold pressed and added raw, we do not use a vitamin pack. We use herbs. So we use acai berry, milk thistle, sage, mangosteens, different things that have a high antioxidant level and, nutrients, bioflavonoids and stuff like that. And that is our vitamin pack. We find when you look at animals and their problems is many of it is from this vitamin pack that they put in. It's meant to withstand high heats because, if you get canned food, all this food is cooked in the can. So these vitamins they add are coated to withstand heat. And, when your animals eat it, it just doesn't process naturally. And so it causes more problems. So that's why when you switch from food to food, if you go from, one brand to the next, your dog or cat might have extreme diarrhea. And it's not because of the proteins or anything. It's because of the vitamin pack. They have to get used to this new type of vitamin pack. So in our foods, we don't have it in there because, it's not natural and it's not holistic. It's not, it's just not part of nature to have those things. So we use herbs, and it makes a difference.
Okay. So what would you say is the worst diet for a pet? Should you never feed a cat or a dog?
Oh, corn, wheat, and yeast. They're carcinogens. So if you look at like science diet, the veterinarian type of prescription foods, the hills, it's a corn-based diet. It's proven that animals get cancer from corn. So that's like for us it's a big no-no. Corn, wheat, which causes a huge amount of allergies in animals, and it can be cancerous. And yeast, they put yeast in for flavor, brewer's yeast, and it's carcinogens. It's a carcinogen for animals. So for us, those are the big three things that are not good.
Yeah, and the corn is GMO corn too.
Yeah, so it's even worse. It is.
On top of that. And I saw that you have vegan meals for pets in your store. What purpose do those serve?
Well, we don't make vegan meals for cats because I myself do not believe in that. I don't think that cats can exist on that, and I think that, while people can do whatever they want, I just find that is very difficult to achieve. However, for dogs can actually exist on a vegan diet. And so we help people to achieve those goals if they choose to have their dogs on a vegan diet. Since we started making vegan food, why we started was I would get a lot of patients, vegan dogs who were sick. They had all these issues. They were itchy or they had these bumps that came out, these like lipomas from the diets they were feeding. So over time, we used to take them off these diets and construct whole new diets for them that were vegan to actually help fix them. And so over time, we started just producing this food. And so now we sell vegan food that's, more appropriately made.
Yeah, I have to say I feel really bad for the dogs that are forced to eat vegan diets.
Yeah, I don't think they like it.
Yeah, they're not healthy for it. The diet is, I think deadly for humans, but I can't imagine it's super healthy for a dog either.
and we see a lot of people who have vegan dogs where our stores in Sherman Oaks, and many of them are not doing well, many of them.
Yeah.
However, it is possible with the right ingredients and with knowledge and education that it is possible to make a diet that conforms better to animals or dogs specifically who their owners want them to be vegan. We don't try to endorse that, but we just give people the option. If you're going to do it, then this is a way we can try and do it. So.
Yeah, I know Ellen DeGeneres has just come out with a line of vegan pet food. I know her wife is vegan, and perhaps Ellen's herself has been converted as well.
Her dogs are vegan too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Are you familiar with her vegan diet line and if it's good for her? It's healthy?
I actually am not familiar, but most vegan commercial foods are not healthy.
Yeah.
So, but I do know her company. These vegan commercial foods, they're trying to make money. So they'll use things that dogs do not do well on, like sweet potato, a lot of pumpkin. You'll see a lot of pumpkin in these foods. They're real starchy, high glycemic foods, so they cause fungus in dogs. And they get really itchy, and, they don't seem to do that well.
Okay. Can you give us a list of what other foods you should never feed your dog? You said corn and you said rice, right?
So, every dog is different, but overwhelmingly, if you look at the domesticated dog population, many of them have something called allergies. And vets, if you go into a vet and your dog is licking their paws or scratching, and just incessantly their skin's all red and they have hot spots, these things are caused by certain ingredients, not only grains, but a big problem is grains. So rice, millet, barley, all of those things cause this reaction in dogs. However, potatoes, especially white potatoes, like russet potatoes, sweet potatoes, yams, butternut squash, and even carrots, they can cause these reactions too. So for people who have dogs with allergies, they can't feed any of those things.
Yeah.
And if you look at almost all food out there, they have it, and it's just because they're trying to make money. So if you make your own food, or like our foods, we don't use potatoes at all. We don't use pumpkin. If we use pumpkin, we use ground pumpkin seed, which is totally different. It's just, it's just different.
I saw on your site that you have recipes, and you also teach people how to cook food for their pets, right?
Correct, we do.
Now, do you have classes, or just is it stuff online?
Well, a lot of people, they come into our store and they'll ask, and Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm actually in there, so I do, we have walk-ins, and people can just come and ask me questions, and people call, and then I have like a 24-hour number for my patients, and they just text, and, we just help people.
Wow.
People want to do better.
You have a 24-hour hotline?
I sure do.
Wow, that's amazing. So you're operating as, almost like a vet, like you're helping these dogs when they're sick.
So for the dogs that come to us that are not well and use us to become well, I prefer that they contact me first before doing anything, because many times we're treating them for something. And if they go to the vet, and even if they do something like internal flea medication, it changes everything. And people, if they don't ask first, then they're going to be disappointed with the results when working with us. So
yeah, I know. I made that mistake because my dog just started going nuts, just itching one day. And so, of course, I took her to the vet. And she was also bleeding. She had some colitis, like she was having bloody stool. I took her to the vet. The doctor gave her antibiotics and told her to eat science diet for gastrointestinal problems. And then a week later, she was just broke out with this major allergic reaction. And I finally called you, and you told me that she was having a fungal infection from all the corn in the science diet.
How's she doing now?
She's doing better. She had a bunch of fleas attack her, so she's allergic to fleas.
That's a problem.
So the poor thing never gets a break. It's either colitis or fleas or something. The vet doing things to her, but she's doing a lot better now. I have her on your diet, or very strict diet, not feeding her any organic chicken scraps or anything. And you had me feeding her enzymes for the fungal infection and some other herbs and stuff for the colitis. So she's doing a lot better. Thank you.
And then, a lot of people, they're trying to do better for their animals, and they go out and buy animal products like animal enzymes and stuff. We use human enzymes. Human probiotics. And the reason why is in the animal industry, there is no regulation, meaning that I can get a product and put anything in it I want and sell it to animals. And so these products are just poorly crafted, and it's part of the problem. It's part of this epidemic on why dogs and cats are consistently sick and coming down with, terminal diseases. It's terrible.
Yeah, I know. Almost every person I know, their dog is really, really sick, has hot spots, has cancer. Every single person I know. And it's their diet. It's just like in the U.S., 50% of people have cancer. It's our horrifying diet. So do you think that dry food is a good option for your pet, and what brands do you kind of like?
Well, as a nutritionist for animals, I have to be open. While I don't endorse or recommend dry foods, I help people find, options that suit their family. Everybody is. Some people are rich. Some people are not as wealthy. Some people have more time to cater to their pets. Some people don't. So, as a nutritionist, I have to be flexible. Dry food overall is not the best for animals, but there are better brands and worse brands. Mm-hmm. So some of the worst brands are like Royal Canine, Science Diet, Pedigree. Those are all like the bottom pyramid. The worst stuff.
I know, Pedigree is like McDonald's.
Yeah, it's not good. Pedigree is so bad that they classify all the bad dog food is known as pedigrees now, whether it's kibbles and bits, and that's how bad Pedigree is. So, that name is used now to classify a whole genre of foods. Mm-hmm. But, foods that we like grain-free foods, and I recommend potato-free foods as well, and many times tapioca-free foods. So we like this brand called Legacy, which is a Canadian brand, and they have never had recalls before. We like another type of food called Amicus, which is red lentil-based, that is also grain-free, made in Canada. And Origin, they just took out the potato from their food because so many dogs were getting itchy on their food. So they actually improved their dry kibble for cats and dogs, because, was part of the problem. We don't seem to like Natural Balance. I don't really like Natural Balance because a lot of my patients were on Natural Balance and they're really itchy, or they have the staining of the eyes and just they're having problems. We like, let's see, there's this brand called Nutrisca. It does well for dogs with allergies and stuff like that. Really, I promote Honest Kitchen, which is a dehydrated food. And some dogs don't like it, but some dogs love it, and they do really well on it. It's kind of like our food, except for it's dehydrated, but they do have like sweet potato and other stuff in it. However, because it's not a kibble, dogs do just incredibly better on it. It's amazing. So, that's what I'm a proponent for. But mostly I'm a proponent for you preparing your own foods. Like we do for, I have children, so I cook for my children. Well, my wife cooks for our children, and she cooks for me, and she cooks for our dogs. And so,
I love that. She cooks for the children, you cook for the dogs. It's happy family.
A happy family, correct. And healthy, so that's what matters.
So you're basically saying that these are obviously brands you mentioned that are not at Petco. They're not at your grocery store. So basically, I assume you're saying that people should never buy their dog food from a grocery store or Petco.
The rule of thumb that I tell people who come in and their dogs have problems, I tell them if you've gotten anything from Target, Ralph's or Petco, PetSmart, you can't use it. You can't feed it. They don't have good products. And it's not that I'm against them. It's just the facts. You cannot change what the facts are. And even really good stores like Whole Foods, a lot of their pet foods are very poor quality, and they just don't know, It's just, they're just not informed or they don't know. But Petco has nothing. I mean, if you're buying stuff from there, it's terrible. And every dog is different. Some dogs will be fed Pedigree their whole life and be okay, but most dogs cannot. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about the organic label? Is organic food, like the organic label on dog food, better than non-organic?
It is not. See, what people don't understand, when you're buying processed foods, like a kibble, even if it's organic, it doesn't matter. The meats that they use are what's called trim. So my company manufactures, we make pet food. And we use grade A type 1 meat, which is what restaurants use. Other dog food companies don't use that. They use trim. It can say human grade and it can be organic, but it's trim. So humans cannot eat this stuff, and that's what goes in pet food. All companies use this. There's very, 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 very few companies that do not use trim. I mean, Blue Buffalo uses trim. Even like the companies I mentioned that have good kibble, they're all using very low quality meats, organic or non-organic. So it doesn't matter. The ingredients is what makes the biggest difference. So if your dog is eating organic rice versus something that doesn't have organic rice, that just is more meat-based, the dog on a non-organic diet is going to do a lot better than on the organic diet.
Yeah, as I read somewhere that there's no regulation whatsoever on the label organic on pet food.
Oh, you can put anything. You can put an organic shoe in there.
Yeah. Organic beef leather shoe. So all the pet foods, even the high-end organic ones, supposedly, I've noticed, because I'm a label detective, I go nuts reading labels, they all contain carrageenan, which is a thickener that they use. And I've been feeding my dogs this their entire life, thinking that the organic canned food was the best. But now both my dogs have colitis, which is an irritation of the intestinal walls, and diarrhea, bloody diarrhea, mucousy diarrhea. And could this ingredient be the culprit, do you think?
Oh, of course. So they are not natural to dogs' ecosystems. So when you feed these things over time, it causes inflammation of like the colon and the pancreas, and really that's what colitis is. When the pancreas can absorb back the bile, and you see this mucus come out and all this inflammation in the GI tract. And so, these are additives that they put in food to thicken them up, to make them more appealing, because it's cheap, stuff like that. So, people don't know this, but all canned foods in the animal industry, they're cooked in the can. It's just the worst stuff you can feed ever. It's terrible.
Wow, and I'm assuming there's a BPA lining in the can, too, that's cooking into the food.
Well, many of them have to line a can, so they have this, lining on the can because it's cooked in the can. So, it's a type of chemical, and, it's terrible, terrible.
And I know carrageenan, it's made from seaweed, but, it's synthesized, so it's processed, so it's not a natural ingredient. And even in humans, it can cause intestinal distress and intestinal disorders and even cancer. And it's obviously, you just said it causes that in dogs as well.
People, animals and dogs and humans are more alike than we think. And so, all this gluten-free diets, and people are trying to avoid wheat and those additives like carrageenan gum, but they're avoiding it for a reason. So our animals are no different. The philosophy behind my company is different from most, that dogs and cats, they're an extension of our family. I have human children. I have a son and a daughter. If you can hear them crying, if I hear them crying.
Yeah.
But my dogs, they're my kids. I have 5 dogs now,
Wow.
Yeah, I just got another one yesterday. So but they're my children. They're house dogs, and we treat them like people, and they have personalities, and I believe they have spirits, and my human son, that's their brother and their sisters. Mm-hmm. And so, that's what our company is about, that if your dog or your cat is your child or part of your family, then we have to treat them like it. We have to feed them how we would our own children. And that's the biggest difference between what we believe in and what a dog food company believes in, like a Pedigree or a Blue Buffalo or Natural Balance,
Yeah, they're just trying to lower their bottom line so they make the most money.
Yeah, they're trying to make money. I would never feed my dog. I would never feed my son kibble, ever. It's just, I could probably be thrown in prison for doing that if I put kibble on his plate every day.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's the same with my dog.
I always kind of intuitively felt that, the vets have always told me, oh, just feed them dry food. Like every vet has said that. They're going to be the healthiest if you only feed them dry food. But I kind of always intuitively felt that this food is disgusting. It just does not look appetizing whatsoever, and I just intuitively knew it's not going to confer amazing health benefits.
Yes, it does not have health benefits. People always say you have to use dry food because it cleans your teeth or because it's balanced and has vitamins. But people don't understand that, kibble takes 14 hours to process in their GI tract. That is like such a huge amount of time. It's causing organ damage. And if you look at like the cat population, almost all cats nowadays die of renal failure or cancer.
Yeah, I noticed
caused
that.
By pet food.
Yeah, I noticed that the cats, most of them have suffered from UTI infections chronically.
Yes, and it's all associated with food. People who do not feed commercial foods like kibble, and they make their own foods, very, very few of them have these problems. So my dogs have never eaten kibble ever in their life. They've never been to a vet. They've never had a UTI. They've never had anything. They've never had colitis. They've never had, diarrhea. And it's just.
I wish I could say that. I clean up a lot of diarrhea. It's really a bummer. But my dogs have colloid. My dogs have, luckily, have hardwood floors, but they always do it in the kitchen, which is, even grosser. But I'm hoping one day I can help nurse both of them back to health and get rid of the colitis. One day.
Everything is possible.
Yeah. So what other kinds of health problems do conventional pet foods cause?
Well, I think the most major health problems besides, allergy or food intolerances is cancer and organ failure. So I treat a lot of animals that have liver and kidney failure. And I think another growing problem, though, is that, you're feeding your dog something that causes diseases, and when your dogs actually get these diseases, you go to a vet that uses harsh medication that is hard for the liver and kidneys to excrete and metabolize. And so I just think it makes it worse. So, we have diarrhea, they give you Flagyl. For diarrhea, we give people herbs, for their dogs that have no side effects. It doesn't cause liver damage. It doesn't cause kidney damage. For dogs with allergies, instead of giving them antibiotics and steroids, which cause brain damage, we give things like black walnut and enzymes to process and digest yeast, and it's just different. And so, these veterinarians, they're just like the dog food. They're commercialized. And for some reason, they lost their ability to connect with the how nature's supposed to be or the body of animals. And it's terrible. It's getting worse.
Yeah, I noticed a lot of dogs have allergies. They have hot spots. My poor Pomeranians are I've been told they're prone to allergies. And why are these on the rise, and what is the best way to treat them?
Well, it's on the rise because, in my opinion, food is getting worse. So if you look back 20 to 30 years, the food was terrible back then too, like the Alpo and stuff like that. But dogs seem to have been doing better back then. Nowadays, when you look around, dogs everywhere have these cones on their heads, or they're biting their feet and they're just really itchy. And so, it just signifies that something's wrong. Either the treats are getting worse, or the food is getting worse, or the earth is getting worse. And then people who are trying to treat it, they're going to vets that don't even know what the problem is. Antibiotics for any type of itching or scratching, that is not a cure. What it does is it kills all of the good flora, the intestinal flora that dogs need to control fungus, to control yeast, just like in humans. Women with candida, antibiotics kill all the flora, and you have to spend time building that up. So what we do is we teach people, first of all, what not to feed. If your dog's itchy, you can't give him carrots, you can't give him potatoes, no bananas, no treats that contain grains or sugars. And we have them use enzymes to digest food completely, so there's no undigestible material. We often recommend another enzyme that helps to digest fungus and yeast cells. And we encourage people to use probiotics. And, it gets expensive because supplements are expensive, but there are quick fixes too. We teach people to add apple cider vinegar to the food. It's, antifungal. Coconut oil to each meal, which is antifungal. And we teach people about correct washing. Like, do not use an oatmeal-based shampoo that is not species appropriate. It makes dogs itch more. Mm-hmm. So we recommend things like Selsun Blue, which is a human shampoo for dandruff, but it gives and provides relief to dogs who have allergies.
Yeah, I read on the internet that if your dog has allergies, you should give them Benadryl. What do you think about that?
Well, Benadryl, it actually does help. We don't recommend it because, it has to be metabolized by the liver and the kidneys. That is not a cure. People are giving their, dogs Benadryl 4 times a day. It's not a cure. Mm-hmm. You're trying to seek out a cure. You want to fix it because it is a problem with food. Everybody thinks it's environmental, but if they're itching and if they're licking their feet, that is yeast coming out and it burns. So they lick it and lick it and lick it. If their feet smell like corn chips, if they have ear infections, these things are caused by funguses. They're not caused by the environment. So for those dogs, a cure is, it's possible. You can cure your dog. You just have to know how.
So if your dog has allergies, you should feed them a grain-free diet, none of the vegetables you talked about, none of the starchy vegetables, and what else? Taking the enzymes.
So enzymes, probiotic, but really a big part of it is not feeding dry food, grain-free or not. Every dog is different. So when we have a dog come in and they're eating pedigree and they're real itchy, well, just by changing the dry food to a grain-free, high-quality dry food, it fixes it because the diet was so poor before. However, a lot of people are more educated now and will not feed a supermarket-type food. They might be on Blue Buffalo, Origin, Natural Balance, and their dogs might be itchy. For these people, you have to take them off kibble. You cannot do it on kibble. It's almost impossible. So we take them off kibble. We either, so some people use our foods. We teach people how to cook. And it goes away. And for people who, may not be able to afford cooking all the time, then we help them to find a better commercial food that will bring the cost down and, that they can live on happily for a long time. So it's just different. But the key is, if your dog is really itchy, you have to not feed kibble. Just kill the dry food and just
I didn't realize that. I've been really bad. Because I feed my dogs twice a day the food that you make, and I leave kibble out on the floor. It's just out 24 hours a day for them to eat. But luckily, apparently you have a rat that's been eating it. Because I never see the dogs getting it. I'm wondering why it's going away. The kibble is the amount's getting lower and lower in the bowl. And my husband saw a rat the other day, so I thought that's great. Someone's just enjoying the kibble. Hopefully he'll get cancer and die.
You know what's interesting is a lot of people say, my dog's picky, my dog doesn't eat. So they have this bowl of kibble down. And what they don't realize is that it's not that your dog is picky. When your dog eats his food, he doesn't feel well. And dogs are not, they're smarter than people give them credit for. They're very intelligent. So when they're eating something, they're sick all the time. They eat to survive, If I left out a bowl of dry food, my dogs would not eat it because, I feed them other stuff. So my dogs don't like dry food, and I'm glad they don't.
Yeah,
I don't know if many dogs do.
I need to take my dry food up and throw it away, apparently. No, I'm glad I did this show. I learned something. Why my dog still has allergies. Because I do dogs before. I'm not consulting with you enough.
Dogs that we're trying to cure, this is how strict the diets have to be. So if your dog is really itchy and you're using enzymes and probiotics and you change the food, if they eat a piece of bread, just one piece, they'll start to itch all over. It's that restrictive. So, if they go to someone's house and eat kibble, they'll immediately become itchy again. So it just shows, regardless of what type of kibble it is, it just shows the quality of it. It's not made for them.
So what do you think about bone broth? Because I make homemade bone broth at home, chicken broth, and sometimes I give it to my dogs. Is that okay?
I think it's okay. You know, dogs cannot live in prison. So, you know, we have to be nice, and that's why we have treats. And, you know, bone broths, they have minerals, and they have certain things in it. You know, it's okay. You know, sometimes it can be fattening, so you don't want to give it every single time, but it is okay. But just so you know that people who give a lot of bone broth, their dogs can have colitis from it too.
Oh, okay. I don't give it that much. I just
yeah.
Part of the reason I was giving it to them was because, you know, I just know from being a nutritionist myself that when you eat the bone broth, it has glutamine in it it's very healing for the intestines. So I kind of thought, well, hey, maybe that's going to be healing for my dogs.
It is. You are correct. It helps. It's just that, you know, with everything there's balance, so you don't want to overdo it.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So, you know, every time I go to the vet, I feel like my dog is not faring any better than when he left. And as I found a few times, he's even worse. So, like I said, my doctor or my vet recommended Science Diet, which contains GMO corn. And so how are vets harming their patients?
Well, I think vets, many of them do not know. And I think that ignorance plays a big part of it. Many vets do know, and they do it because they make a lot of money off of this stuff. So, you know, ignorance and maybe greed is harming people's animals. Anything with corn, regardless of, you know, if the president tells you to use it, it's not good. You know, if you go on the internet and you just do, you know, random searches about it, it is the worst thing for animals. So just because your vet tells you to use it doesn't mean that it's good. This type of food, you know, this prescription diet, it is a huge problem, and it is getting worse. And more dogs and cats are sick because of it. And GMO corn, and just it's filled with the worst stuff ever.
And do you think that vaccines are necessary? Because I know my personal take is that I don't think vaccines are necessary. I think they're toxic and a waste of money. Do you think that vaccinations for dogs do more harm than good?
Well, professionally, you know, when people come in and ask me, you know, I can't really decide that for them. However, I tell them how my family is. My dogs have no vaccines. My dogs have never been sick. They go to the dog park. They you know, they're dogs. They sniff poop like other dogs. And, you know, I don't believe in vaccinations. You know, the rabies vaccine is not to protect my animal. They want to do the rabies vaccine to protect humans. But not only that, to make money off of it. Your dog has a distemper vaccine. I get dogs, you know, because I have a rescue, so I get dogs consistently that have been vaccinated for distemper and died because of it. So they can still get it. They can still get and acquire all of these sicknesses, even vaccinated. I don't vaccinate at all, ever.
Yeah, because I felt like the vaccinations for dogs have to be of just horrifying quality, because even the human vaccinations have no testing whatsoever prior to going on the market. There's no liability at all for the pharmaceutical companies. So I can only imagine the dog vaccines must be just complete, just terrible, just a complete trash.
See, so some people don't know, but, you know, I'm in the animal industry. So I have hospice care where, you know, people with dying animals come to me. And it's not a huge majority, but many of them, or some of them, are because of the rabies vaccine. So, you know, my dog just got the rabies vaccine. He's paralyzed. And many of these dogs who come to me who have vaccine-related illnesses, many of them die. Because, like you said, there is no regulation. There is no real testing.
Yeah, and I imagine they have all kinds of heavy metals and preservatives. I'm sure they're using mercury to preserve it.
Of course, yes. Aerosol.
So these dogs, like, you know, my vet tells me to come in every year and get those shots, and, you know, over a certain point, they're going to get mercury poisoning.
And then there's all the doses are the same. If you come in with a Chihuahua, your dose is the same as a Mastiff. It's crazy, you know. 100-pound dog is getting the same dose as a 5-pound dog. It's insane. I don't understand it.
Yeah. So you're saying that there's not any vaccinations that you would recommend for pets?
I don't recommend vaccinations at all. So, you know,
okay.
My dogs are not vaccinated.
Yeah. So, what kinds of supplements do you sell in your store?
Well, we sell everything from, you know, multivitamins to calcium to fish oils to, you know, probiotics and herbs. You know, we have herbs, we have homeopathy. You know, we help people with Cushing's. We make herbs for dogs who have CDS, which is kind of like doggy Alzheimer's. And you know, we actually have a lot of supplements. And I really believe that dogs should exist solely on food. However, some dogs need the help. So as they age, probiotics are beneficial. As they age, you know, enzymes or things like burdock root and dandelion and milk thistle, they're all beneficial. So.
Yeah, I love it that I can come into your store and find out exactly what's wrong with my dog and how I can treat it naturally, and it's going to be so much more effective. I mean, it's like every time I go to the vet, it's just a complete waste of money. My dog is, half the time they can never figure out what's wrong with them. They're like, we don't know. I'm like, okay, why am I here exactly? It's just so, annoying to me. Annoying.
Yeah.
So how much is your food? Because I noticed, I was paying $3 a can at Whole Foods for their, what I thought was really good organic food. But I'm finding your food is really not any more expensive. It's maybe 50 cents more expensive for the same amount.
Yeah. So most of our dishes are $3.50 each, except for bison, which is $3.75. And then if you look at like our cat food, it's actually cheaper than many commercial cat foods out there, and it's all organic.
Yeah, how do you keep the prices so low? Because it's just amazing. You can get this grass-fed organic pet food for the same price as this, highly processed garbage.
Well, we make less than those companies make, but we don't advertise, so we don't have marketing costs. Our company is small, so I drive to Irwindale, where our kitchen is, every day. But not only that, people don't realize that if you buy in bulk, if you are a manufacturer, organic food is not that expensive. People who come into our store who want to cook for their animals, we get them like free-range grass-fed bison for $5.25 a pound. We get duck that's deboned, and we cut it for $4 a pound, that they can make their own food. We get wild cod at $3.60 a pound. It's cheaper than Costco. And we just help people, who want to do better.
So they can actually come to your store and buy the raw food and take it home and make it.
They can. They can get bulk meat from us. So they can buy organic grass-fed Angus beef. And a lot of the people, they eat it themselves. You know how this lady that comes every Tuesday, she gets mahi-mahi, and she feeds her cat and her dog, and she eats it.
She eats the leftovers. Yum. Hey, if it's cheap, cheaper than Costco, you got to take advantage of it. So, are you able to ship your fresh organic pet food?
We don't. People do. They pick it up themselves and ship it, but we don't. And it's just because, we really don't have the time. And it's unfortunate. But there are companies out there who ship and who do all these things, except for we can't. Because, we really are just, we're so busy with sick animals and trying to get people better. And really, people just call me all day. So
yeah, you're too busy.
Yeah, And if I could hire somebody to do it, I don't, it would make the food more expensive.
Yeah. So are there any other companies that are doing what you're doing that ship?
Well, I think there's a lot of companies that do what we do, except for they're all different. So most of the companies that make fresh food, they're grain-based. They have rice or potatoes in it, because they're trying to make money off of it, a lot of money. I think we're the only dog food company that uses herbs. Our food is used for a purpose. So if you have kidney failure, you use our Cornish game hen. It has milk thistle, dandelion, burdock root. If you have intestinal problems, your dog has colitis or GI problems, we have a turkey for that. It has slippery elm and papain and stuff in it. So it's just different. But a lot of companies are doing things that are better for pets,
I've heard this a lot from vets that you should feed your pets the same food, that if you switch their food, it's going to cause them problems. Is that true?
Well, they're talking about kibble. So, like I brought up earlier, when you switch your dog from Blue Buffalo to Pedigree to Science Diet to Royal Canine, the animal has to get used to the vitamin pack. So they can get, violently ill. They can have diarrhea. Sometimes it can cause bleeding. With our foods, it's not like that. We don't have a vitamin pack. There's no preservatives. There's no fillers. So people change. They go from bison to pheasant to venison to lamb to Cornish game hen to chicken. So we don't see a problem. The only problem we ever come across is some dogs have never eaten red meats before. So when they do, they might have a reaction to it because, it's a little harder to break down sometimes. So that's about it that we ever see. But so for us, we believe it's beneficial to change the protein source. And the reason why is your dog will naturally have more enzymes, If you just feed them one thing, their body will be deficient. They'll only be breaking down one type of protein source. And we think it's beneficial to change.
Okay. Yeah, and I had one more question about flea medicine because, Advantage and the other brands are all the rage. And I was wondering, I've always kind of felt like uneasy about putting this, pesticide-like substance on my dog and having it soak into their body so that they're kind of like a walking pesticide factory. And when a flea bites them, it dies. What are the problems with these kind of medications?
Well, there's two types. There's a topical and there's an internal. I am very, 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 very against the internal. A lot of people, their vet would recommend Trifexis or Comfortis, these pills that they eat. That is straight poison. You're giving your dog poison. So it can kill things, and it's metabolized and absorbed by the tissues in the body, and it's crazy. And, the topicals, it's absorbed into the skin and the fatty membrane of the skin. And, we are against both of them. However, some dogs do have a problem with fleas. So if they do, and you have to, or you feel like you have to do something, we always say a topical is better. But, there are natural sources. Some people use cedar oil that's real effective.
Oh, what is that called again?
Cedar oil. It's like a
cedar
type of oil that, fleas don't like the smell of it. They're more burdensome to use, and you have to use it more often. But it is healthier. But no matter what, nobody should ever do an internal flea medication ever. It's a poison. You're putting poison directly into their mouth. It's crazy.
But are the topical ones toxic also?
Well, they are not healthy. You're putting poison on them. A chemical on them that's absorbed into the skin. So it is harmful. However, it is a lot safer than the internal. It is. But we do not recommend it either. Okay. I'm not a flea expert, so when people ask me for alternative, things, I really can't help them.
Yeah, I know. I have a friend that she runs a pet hotel, and she had a cat that was her cat, and so the cat loved all the dogs and was licking on them, and of course all the dogs have Advantage of these topical flea medicines, and her cat ended up having seizures and then dying, and the vet said it was neurological damage from this topical flea medicine that she kept licking.
It's it happens, and it's possible, and animals are at risk who use it.
Yeah.
So and just think of that. Some people put it inside of their animal; they feed it to them. It's absurd.
Yeah. So you donate 20% of your proceeds to different causes. I think that's so wonderful. So can you tell us what causes that you're championing?
Well, like last year, at the end of the year, we gave away 5,000 pounds of food to just local rescues, and then we sent stuff to when they had the hurricane. A lot of the stuff actually goes to, we have a hospice care. And what happens is, if your dog is between the ages of really 2 and 7, and, you're just not wealthy, and you're, we just do everything for you. We take the dogs in, and we really save their lives. We have an 85% success rate when a vet tells you your dog will be dead in 2 days. And many people come to us, and that's what we do. So that's what my company pays for. It's actually cost more than 20%, unfortunately, but, it's,
oh, wow.
It doesn't matter. It's what we live for, and it's what we do. But we donate to different rescues that live around us, in Sherman Oaks. So we have a Match LA, Beagle Freedom Project. There's a lot of them. And
that's wonderful.
And we give them food.
That's so wonderful. They're so sweet. So, just tell the listeners where you're located, what's your address, where they can find the PetStaurant.com.
So we're located in Sherman Oaks, and it's 4344 Van Nuys Boulevard, Sherman Oaks, California, 91403, and we're like a block south of Ventura on Van Nuys. And we people, they can walk in, and we specialize in like food allergy issues or itchiness, or like liver disease and stuff like that. And so it's kind of like a vet. People walk in, and we have consults, and it's just I give them my number, which is they can text anytime. They can take pictures of stools. I'm telling you, I literally get like 100 pictures of poop a day. But, and then we help people.
I'm really sorry about that. It seems like you signed up for that.
But it helps them. I mean, it helps them.
It's clear that you care so much about dogs, and I think it's amazing that you were a human nutritionist, and that you got tired of treating them because they never did what you said, which I'm finding as a health coach. Even though I drill it into their head, they still don't do it. But that's wonderful that you decided you wanted to be a dog nutritionist, because they obviously don't have a choice. You have to feed them. They have to eat whatever they're fed. So thank you so much for being on the show, Marc. That was very, very educational, and it's going to help a lot of with feeding their pets the proper Primal diet. So you can
Thank you for having me, Wendy.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Thank you so much. So you can find Marc's food on the PetStaurant.com. It's ThePetStaurant.com. And thank you so much for listening to the Live to 110 podcast. That's all for today, folks. So next week we have Dr. Jason Kelberman on the show talking about functional medicine and chiropractic care. So definitely tune in for that show.